And welcome everyone. We are here tonight talking to Jason Faust, founder of Heartland Paranormal out of Nebraska, was it?
Hmm.
Okay. And just to get things kicked off and started, so everybody can kind of get an understanding and idea of you, what got you interested and started in the paranormal field?
Um, I've been into it all my life, basically. What got me started, just in short, was I was about 5 years old and saw the movie Jaws, um, and that just like shot me into the horror and the macabre genre. And so, watching, reading everything I could get my hands on, um, that was like horror, zombie, werewolf, all that. As I got older, just wanted to read um, more like true accounts on ghost stories because I mean ghost stories were so interesting to me, and so just started the true accounts, what people experienced, just was a lot more interesting. So I started reading more and more about that, and then started reading stuff from guys like Hans Holzer, James Randi, who sadly just passed away. Like 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
famous magician for that used to be famous for debunking everybody's tricks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot for this field, I mean, just exposing frauds and stuff. But read a lot of guys like that. The Warrens obviously were ones to read about their cases and stuff. And anyway, so like, yeah, just getting, I just, the older I got, the more I read about that kind of stuff. And about, I'd say about 7 years ago, I'm going into my seventh year active in the field. And, just started getting active, started going to different locations. Kind of started out with the Villisca Axe Murder House. That was a fluke that my wife, we were going to visit her grandma in Creston, Iowa, and we stopped
Hmm.
to do a day walkthrough at that place, and it sparked the want to. And that flame has just only gotten bigger since.
So it just kind of
So,
set that flame under your total interest and
oh
curiosity of
yeah,
everything. Then.
yeah, I mean, when you were so like when I like I said, I've been reading and educating myself on this in the supernatural and ghost spirit realm stuff. I've been educating myself on that stuff all my life, and so um, yeah, once you go to a place and see possible happenings, um, yeah, that flame just it just goes out of control. More questions happen, and you just want to find out more and more and more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's how I got my start.
I kind of know about that because I wasn't quite that young. I was like 8 when I went and seen Jaws. My cousin decided it would be a good idea to take me and let me watch it. So, but I've been myself into the paranormal for a while, and what really got me started was whenever I started studying witchcraft and Wicca,
Okay.
and I became a practicing Wiccan, and that's when a lot of the weird stuff started happening. What people would call weird. So
You know what's funny is the misconceptions on uh, uh, Wicca, witches, warlocks, stuff like that. I mean, there's such a negative connotation to it, and I'll tell you what, some of the most genuine, wonderful people that I know are in like alongside the pagan belief system, the Wiccan
yep.
practices and stuff, and that are actually like witches. And it's like it gets such a bad rap because of foolish misconceptions.
Hollywood doesn't help either
Yeah.
Well,
sometimes.
yeah, Hollywood doesn't help, and the fact that the like the Christianity religions throughout the centuries have been oppressors to paganism and to the Wiccan faiths. They've always just tried to push it all down and turn it evil, and it's not evil. There is some aspects of it that can be considered evil, depending on the way that the practitioners follow the guidelines. But there's nothing in it that even is supposed to remotely be evil because it's all natural. It's all about the natural world and everything that's
Oh
around you.
yeah.
So
So, do you got like a whole team now, or is it just you?
Um, it's actually just me. For quite a while, I had another gentleman that was with me, and we have parted ways. Just difference of opinion. We'll just call it that. Um,
It happens.
yeah,
it
this
does. It
does
does
happen.
happen, and um, I'll I'll just say this that I have a number of people um, that kind of do their own thing, but depending on the case, the situation, whatnot, I have a number of people that I can call on that have different skill sets that I think will complement each situation, you know, um, in a different way. So I prefer to do it like that. So I just kind of consider myself a free agent.
So you kind of
Um,
go out, assess the situation, or you get information on a place and you assess it, and you go, okay, this place, this person might help, this person might help, and then you contact and set them up, set it up to
yeah,
go with
pretty
you.
much. Yeah.
Oh, that's
And a
kind of a
lot of
cool way
times,
to
I mean,
do it.
like I personally like don't do cleansings or extractions or nothing like that, and so I network those out anyway.
Right.
And so I have a lot of teams from all over the country that I've uh, uh, met and know the people from the different teams, and there's been a lot of times where I've called up people and like, hey, you know, I'm doing this case with this is the situation, this is the variables, and you call up a team and you say, are you willing to go in? And I've gotten a lot of things done that way too. And you got, I need what I need to do is get a whole notebook of like and just do a contact like an address book or whatever because it's all in my mental Rolodex.
Yeah.
And I think I, I think sometimes it gets like overloaded. I think I fry the hard
So
drive every once in a while.
so basically the way you're doing it right now is you're kind of the agent to the stars.
uh,
You find the work and call them in to do it.
yeah, when I do, but like I've run into so few cases that actually need a cleansing or an extraction. Honestly, I can just say off the top of my head, since I've been active in the field, two cases that possibly would have needed it, and we had a team set up to come in on the one, and the family basically called us up and they were like, "Yeah, thanks for your help, but we're moving." We're like, "Oh, that bad, huh?" And the other team I was working with were like, "Hey, don't forget to leave our business cards on the kitchen counter with you for the next resident."
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um, but no, like I have a different philosophy in this field, and I in no way discount that demons or evil uh, or malevolent energies and entities like exist. I do believe that stuff
Hmm.
exists. Uh, like Joe had said that Hollywood really like throws out these misconceptions. They
Oh yeah.
exacerbate them, um, and rightly so because like a movie, an exorcism that's like like Linda Blair,
Yeah,
spinning
yeah.
head, vomiting pea soup, peeing on the floor. That's
Yeah.
gonna sell. That's gonna be a blockbuster.
It was
A
a
movie.
blockbuster.
Yeah, I mean, that came out in what, like 71 or 73?
70 something, yeah. And I
Yeah, and
Yeah, it
think
was early
since then
70s.
they've made a couple of sequels or other Exorcist movies, and I think they've actually rebooted the original. Or
like
remade.
even the original is still like people are still viewing that today
Oh yeah.
because it was such a like it hit you in such a way that it was like, I mean, it was one of those oh shit movies. It was like, oh my god, like, you know, but like a movie they did Casper that was great for the kids, but a movie about a ghost that does your laundry and washes your dishes, it's not
That
going to
ain't gonna
put
happen.
people into seats.
And it ain't gonna happen either. When you see a
No.
ghost, that doesn't
No.
happen.
No.
So that's Hollywood, but in reality, um, I honestly take the stance that more often than not, you can find a way to coexist with energies that are occupying your personal space. So, um, even intelligent energies,
Hmm.
obviously a residual one that's going to be frightening. Something that's kind of on the loop, doesn't really know it's there. You experience something. The idea of a ghost, a wraith, a spirit, an energy, whatever you want to call it, um, to somebody who's not really in the field, that idea alone is frightening to them. But that's a different fear than if you're actually like fearing for your safety.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
It's a
when
fear
I
of
do
the
a
unknown.
residential, yeah, absolutely, it is a
Yeah.
fear of the unknown. Excuse me, and I think a little bit of it is fear of a dead guy in my house. Like I but you could have like intelligent energy. Um, a lot of times you're not even going to know you have it. You could live in a house for 50 years and have that energy in the corner of the room every night while you're watching Jeopardy.
Oh yeah.
And they're just watching over your shoulder. You may never know that they ever occupy that space. Um,
Exactly.
and so having benign energies in your home, why go to the trouble of cleansing or exercising or extracting that energy from the home when you could just coexist?
Yeah.
Um, and
No.
so a lot of stuff is just, uh, uh, I will do sagings. Um, a lot of times I think that the person can, be taught to sage themselves because saging is not a
Yeah.
one time deal. I think if you're going
No.
to sage, it needs to be a repetitive deal. Uh, because saging, I think there's a misconception with that that's not a cleansing. That's, excuse me, a tool to bring the energy up and more positive. And I don't think people realize that. So if you're going to sage, you need to continue doing it on a
Yeah.
regular basis. And but one of the biggest things that I recommend people do is address address the energy out loud. You may feel stupid just standing in your living room talking to pure air, but you will find that if you just acknowledge them in a respectful manner, you're gonna watch the activity like exponentially drop.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
We tried to tell Tom to do that with Tommy.
That. Yeah. I know. We tried to tell Tom to do that with Tommy, but I don't
To
know if he's
talk to
ever
him like
really
a
done it.
child, and
Well, it's
maybe
because
that would
okay,
work.
some friends of ours who helped us out in the beginning of our starting into the
Podcast.
podcasting and stuff, and gave us some information on some of the programs and stuff like that to go with. They do a comedy podcast, but they a year ago this month they bought an old like Victorian type house.
94 years old.
So they started within about 2 months of moving in there. They started getting activity all over the place. Where um,
He'd leave and
his
he'd
girlfriend would
go
go to work
upstairs, and he'd go
before
upstairs or
he
in the
does,
basement, come back, and all the drawers in the kitchen were open, all the cupboards were
Well,
open, the
yeah, and then
stove was
he'd go,
open, or the oven was open.
yeah, or he'd go, she'd go to work first, he'd go to work, and then he'd get done and come home before she does, and come walking in the door, and all the cabinets and the drawers all opened up, oven door opened enough to where the lights on in the oven, because it was it is more of a mischievous, intelligent spirit.
And he was blaming Molly, thinking she was coming home at lunchtime and doing this just to fuck with him.
Yeah, yeah.
And but the whole let's just break this down because I don't want to take up too much of the time telling about us and our stuff. I
No,
want
no,
to know
no,
more
no.
about
That's
this
fine.
guy, but we ended up finding out because they found an old chest up in the attic, and they got it returned to kind of the original owner. And he had the person that owned the house prior to that had a psychic. Was it a psychic or something
Yeah, so it
come
was a
in?
psychic and a paranormal group. He had them come in, and they found out that the entity that's there is a child of about 12 years old, and his name is Tommy. And
And the
that's
guys
why that's why all this little weird crap was going on.
and only Tom
you
was
know,
seeing it.
a kid, a child, a kid, basically trying to play with you is how we tried to explain it to him. So
It was an interesting investigation. We've got all the footage up. The attic is probably one of my favorite
yeah,
pieces because there was an old weight that
it's a
holds the
counterweight
door
that
open.
that would hold
No, the door open. The
the
attic
door
door open.
open for the attic.
Uh-huh.
And we had a
And
camera up
I
there.
didn't even bump it or anything. He accidentally pulled the camera over, and I had to pick it back up, but I still never bumped the weight. But the weight started swinging, and it stayed swinging the entire time, and it was over an hour or close to an hour worth of video.
Yeah. And no breeze
Really?
up
And
in
there
there.
was no
There's
breeze
no
up there or
breeze.
anything. The weight's just sitting there, just kind of moving like this.
Pretty heavy weight too.
And a couple of times it looks like it actually sped up.
About, it's about that long, and it was probably made out of like cast iron.
It was made out of cast iron.
Uh-huh.
You know.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
but you get like an hour of swinging when there's no cross breeze. And actually, if it's cast iron, I mean, that's not going to be like a breeze that's going to swing that.
No, you would
Probably going to
think
have to be
you
like a
would
wind.
And
you
there
would
was
think
nothing
that
up
it
there.
would stop. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you would think that it would actually slow itself down to a point where it stops
Didn't stop.
within that time frame. Never did.
Because we left the
Dang.
camera up there. We left the camera up there and one of our EMF meters up there while we were investigating the rest of the
Never
house.
got a hit on the EMF, but that damn weight kept swinging, and that was just the weirdest thing.
So you guys are talking about you said Tommy is 12-year-old.
Yeah, he's like a 12-year-old kid.
Okay. Um, I gotta ask you this because it's something that comes up in a lot of discussions. Um, you guys have heard of the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas?
The what?
Actually, I haven't.
The Sally House.
The
No.
Sally
It's in
House.
yeah, Atchison, Kansas. Um, I'm kind of surprised you have it
Oh, we've been.
because it's a fairly
We're primarily
uh,
focused in Wisconsin right now and looking into all the weird stuff and the cryptids around Wisconsin because that's where we're from. And
okay.
this is the first time we've had somebody from your area, as in Kansas,
Well,
telling us
no,
about some of the stuff.
we had that team from Kansas City, but they never mentioned
Oh,
the
okay.
house that you're
That's
mentioning.
right.
Um,
So
and I like when I do my residential and business cases, those are usually um, Lincoln or small town surrounding, you know.
right.
Um, but like I like to go to the commercial locations, and that includes, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa has a lot of stuff. I've been to South Dakota to do a lot of stuff. Did a little exploring in Hawaii.
Oh wow.
I mean,
Wow.
anywhere I can go. Hawaii is more not so much like haunted; it's they're more concentrated on like superstition.
Yeah.
So like talking to the Polynesian natives were that was awesome. But anyway, the Sally House. Short little rundown on this house. Tony and Deborah Pickman are the ones that put this house on the map back in the early '90s. Uh, they had moved in and were renting this house, and were experiencing the energy of a small girl. And they named it the Energy Sally, I believe. I think there was a psychic that came in and said that the name was Sally, and said, but it was weird because it was spelled different, SALLIE rather than a Y. And the show Sightings came in and did a couple episodes on this house back in the early '90s. I think like '93. Um, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing Tony and Deborah a couple times. Um, and I do not think that they're fibbing whatsoever. They're wonderful people. Their story stays on point.
Hmm.
Um, I believe they have a legit story. Now he was raised Catholic. I don't hold it against him, but Catholicism in this field just clash.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, big
Yes, it
time,
does. I
big
have
time.
and
a I
I'm
have
working on
family
a
members
project
that are
right now
Catholic.
that I want to like look at uh, like compare and see the amount of effect that like mental illness has on our field, and what ties into that, um, and not just like what people would just automatically think of like schizophrenia and like hallucinations and whatnot. But you look at like exorcists and what
Hmm.
the Catholic Church actually goes into with exorcisms. Um, they will not look at it as a paranormal deal or a demonic case until they've ruled out mental illness and substance abuse and all that. And so when they have a call for an exorcism, they actually have health professionals, um, that they have a substance abuse professional, a mental health professional that will go in and rule that stuff out. And so
Right.
there's not as many exorcisms that happen as people think, because most of the time it's either one or the other, or some kind of like weird abuse going on. It's,
Yeah.
whether it's psychological abuse, emotional abuse, whatever.
I could
Um,
I could easily see that happening.
yeah. And so I've had a couple of my friends who know I'm working on this project. I would like to interview some Catholic clergy, and I have not gotten to that point yet. But all of
Good
them are
luck with
like,
that.
yeah, that's the response I get every time. Good luck.
Yeah, because like I said, I've got family that's Catholic, so I kind of know that faith and I know what it's like, and
I am so happy
it's wow.
that when I was just a wee little lad, before I was baptized,
Try to get it
my
closer to the mic, Joe.
my family decided to change from Catholic to Lutheran. So I was baptized Lutheran, and I had didn't have to deal with that Catholic faith because I come from an Italian family, and we were all strict Catholics before my grandfather father when his father passed away. He changed faiths, so I got lucky. My
Okay.
my dad was baptized Catholic though.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, Catholicism, man. That just
Two of the
man.
funniest things. I was raised predominantly Lutheran. A number of my grandfather, my godfather, and a number of my uncles were they were all from Latvia, and they came over here over during the war, right at the end of the war, and they were ELCA Lutheran, Latvian Lutheran ministers, and then we were, excuse me, not ELCA, ELC Lutheran ministers. But I was raised in an ELCA Lutheran church, and I would have Catholic people go, "Oh, you're the lazy Catholic, huh?" I'm like, "Well, no, I'm Lutheran." But other times, it's like I have people like I know people that would like they said, "Oh, when I was a kid, I was Catholic." And I'm like, oh, you're not anymore. They said, no, I decided when I reached the age of reason, I would venture away. So anyway, going back to the Sally House, and I'm a very tangential thinker. If you have not caught on to that yet,
That's all right.
It's okay.
so what? I don't remember the exact age of Sally. I want to say like between 8 and 10 years old. The story was this house belonged to the Finney family for it stayed in that family I think until like the 50s. It was built I want to say in like the 20s, early 1900s, and it stayed in the Finney family for a long time. But one of the Finney family, it was Dr. Charles Finney, ran his practice out of that home, and the legend goes there's really no concrete evidence to back up this story, but a neighbor had brought her daughter over to Dr. Finney's house in the middle of the night with severe stomach pains, and it turned out to be an appendicitis. And so he brought the little girl in, put her on the table. At the time, the common practice was to put them down with chloroform before they did the surgery.
Right.
And she didn't go completely under. And when Dr. Finney started to cut to do the appendectomy,
She came.
she bled out and died. And so if you read uh, Deborah's book, there's nothing to indicate that this is an evil spirit. I mean, yeah, there was times where the way they talked to her obviously would piss a little girl off. Very condescending, very demanding. Um, and I'm not trying to criticize Deborah and Tony. I mean, they had no experience in the field whatsoever at the time when they first experienced this little girl. But this house, on a near constant basis, gets the bad rap of being a demonic house, and that there's evil spirits there, and this little girl is out to get people. And so here's my question: you go to a place like Bliss Gack's murder house that supposedly has 6 children energies there. You go to the Sally house who has a little 10-year-old girl there. People experience scratches. People experience little bruises, whatever. Um, it's so funny that automatically people say that these scratches and bruises means that it's demonic, that it means that it's evil, that it's
No.
malevolent, that it's you got to get out of there. Well, it's a kid. What does a kid want when
Attention.
they're alive? Mom,
Attention.
mom, dad.
Yeah.
Attention.
They
Attention.
want attention all the
She's
time.
trying to. She's trying to get your attention.
Exactly. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And so why would it be any different in the afterlife?
Oh, it shouldn't be.
It's not. But see, it's not really afterlife that she's in right now. It's the in between than what is what a lot of people have dubbed to be purgatory.
Right.
But
So
still,
when you
Right.
have the intelligence, when you have the intelligent hauntings, and the intelligent spirits, those are the ones that are actually considered to be trapped in purgatory. They haven't moved on because they're not certain how to move on.
or they got some unsettled
Or
business.
there are yes, or there is unsettled business left in this world for them that
You
they
know,
feel it needs to be done, and they don't know how to continue on with getting that done.
Do you guys subscribe to
So
the theory that there are people that don't want to move on?
oh
That
yeah,
like
oh
try
it's
to
possible
refuse to
too.
move on?
I would.
well, yeah, that's a possibility as well because it depends on the mindset of the person that passed away. You know,
I keep telling people
some
I'm
people
not gonna
don't
ever
ever
die.
want to leave this world. They're so happy, so content with what their life is. They don't ever want to die. You know, they'll and when they do die, then they don't want to move on. They don't care what's on the other side. They just want to have what they had here.
Right.
So yeah, I
Or
can
be
see
close
that
to the
happening.
family that they had here, the loved
Or
ones they
again,
left
now
behind.
see, I have this theory because things were happening to me, and this was just after my brother passed away. Now, um, I'm the youngest of seven, and I had a brother who was like more in the middle of the group. Wound
Hmm.
up passing away. He had complications of diabetes, so he passed away before my mom and dad did. And it was about, I'm trying to remember how many years. It's like 4 or 5 years before my mom passed away. So during the time that all this happened, I'm back here in Wisconsin. He's in California, but um, weird things started happening. Things started. I could I'd catch shadows out of the corner of my eye, or and I would feel that I knew it was him that was here, but I knew that he didn't want to move on because he was waiting for my mom.
Oh,
He was close to my mother. He was close to our mom.
He was a mama's boy,
Yeah, in a way he was. And so
kind of like Dwayne.
when my mother passed away, um, the activities kind of stopped.
that
And
makes sense though.
I never really felt their energies anymore.
What
That
was
that makes
So,
sense though. I mean, think about like people who are terminally ill or ready to pass on. They're in the hospital. They're ready to go.
hmm
Um, and you have family on the way. Say like you have
Oh, they'll wait.
uh,
Some of them will hold
uh,
on.
not what's that?
Some of those people will hold on until they get somebody gets there, and then they.
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, I'll give you an example. My stepfather, he was put into what is that called? Hospice. When he
hospice.
was
Hospice.
when he was put in hospice, and he waited until he heard these words from my mother. And the minute he heard these words from my mother, it was over. He was done. It, he was gone. I mean, you heard the death rattle and everything going on, and all of this. He was right on the edge. My mom gets there, and she's like, "The boys are here. I'll be okay." And once she said that she was going to be okay, it was over. He immediately was gone.
Yeah.
And that's what he was waiting for her to say that she was going to be okay.
See, and I have an example of my godmother. When she was going, it was an odd thing because we thought she was going to outlive all of us, and she ended up in a hospital, and um, we were all there. But one of her sons, him and his family are coming in from Des Moines, and the doctor says, you know what, come into the room, everybody, just like by twos, and it's time to say her goodbyes because she's not going to be here much longer at all. And he had just left. He was still 2 hours out. Des Moines from us is roughly about 3.5 hours away. And
Right.
he was still 2 hours away. And the doctor was ready for her to be going, within the next couple 10 minutes. And sure as sure as shit, she held on until that last
hmm
son came in, said goodbye, and then we were all together in the waiting room, and 5 minutes after that last goodbye, boom, she was gone. So that goes with your theory there. Um, I I I think it's just kind of maybe like, yeah, maybe people are just waiting for another person to join them and cross that bridge. Or
Yep.
I've always thought, I a lot of people love going and investigating cemeteries.
Yeah, we've done that.
We've been to a couple of them actually.
A few.
My thing with cemeteries, though, is it's the least likely place to be to have like heightened activity. And you've got the famous cemeteries, like you've got Mount Moriah Cemetery out in South Dakota, over by Deadwood. You've got I can't think of the actual cemetery name, but in Illinois where Resurrection Mary is.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I know that one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Haven't
and so
been
you've
there,
got the
but
famous ones. You've got the
right.
famous cemetery that is like known for their activity.
Well,
Um,
here in Madison, we got Forest Hill Cemetery off
okay,
Speedway Road. That one is known in the area. I don't know how far out the legend of it goes, but there is Civil War graves in the backside of that cemetery. Plus, there's World War I and World War II graves in that cemetery.
okay.
And
And there has been sightings. People have claimed to this day that they have seen what
that
looked like Civil War um, soldiers walking
that
around in the back of the cemetery there.
right, that and people say that when they walk through there because they use
There
it
are
as a popular
also
jogging trail to go through from because Speedway Road is just what it is. It's
yeah
just
it
it's
people
only a
people
35-mile zone there, but they still
but they'll
speed
do
like a bat
60 and
out of
70
hell.
through there, especially at night.
So
Jesus.
Yeah,
people
they're stupid.
people stay close. People walk on the straightest path from one side of the cemetery to the other that runs parallel to Speedway Road, and they'll have experiences where they've got a Walkman in, or their cell the batteries just die. It
Yeah,
just goes
the
dead. They
batteries
got
just
fully charged
died.
item, and all of a sudden it's just dead.
Wow.
You
Plus
know,
the cemetery itself too, back where some of those um, I think it's the World War I graves are. There are effigy mountains back there too.
yeah, it was built over some
It was
effigy
built over
mounds.
some effigy mounds, some Indian
Okay.
effigy mounds.
Yeah,
So you've
but
got a rich history of that particular spot because of the fact that you have these
but
grave sites
here's the
from
thing
the
about
different
that.
war eras, and then you have the effigy mounds there as well.
When I saw that in the see, we got a guy that's kind of locally famous around here. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name's Chad Lewis. He's an author,
Yep.
and he wrote about this in his book. We pretty much follow some of his books on where we're going to go next to check out, just because we want to know. Um, I couldn't believe when Forest Hill Cemetery was in one of his books because I grew up right across the street from it on Speedway Road. My grandma lived there, so me and all my cousins at night would play ghosts in the graveyard in that cemetery. Never did I ever remember ever feeling spooked or feel like I was being watched or anything in that cemetery as a kid.
Well, and that's why I'm not saying that there aren't energies in a cemetery.
No, I can see
But
how it's
like you think
possible.
about like a cemetery is a place for like rest and respite.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but say there are people who don't want to cross over, but they revisit cemeteries because they know their loved ones are going to come and see the grave site, and they're going to
Right.
visit the grave
Right.
site,
hmm
and so they kind of hang around that area because they want to see their loved ones there. I
Right.
mean, I it's a loose theory, but it's kind of a theory I have that
Well,
I cemeteries are great for
well, I got
history. For
I got another theory for you.
yeah,
Let's go back in history. How many people in the United States were probably buried alive? Because back in the early 1800s, early 1900s, the medical field was so much different than it is now, and
oh yeah,
they might have declared somebody dead, buried them, and they could have just been in a coma,
yep,
woke up, been scratching the top of that coffin, trying to get out. I mean, that's a scary thought. That scares the hell out of me. But I mean, that spirit might just be stuck right there now.
yeah. That's true.
You
That's
yep.
know,
true.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's a
See, this
lot of
is what's beautiful about this field is that
there's a lot
you
of
start
theories.
you start thinking about one thing and it just opens Pandora's box is what it does.
Exactly,
Yes, it does.
exactly.
Yes, it does.
And that's what I love about it is that you can lose sleep over it because you just get to thinking and I've got notebooks upon notebooks here in my shop that I do that. I just start thinking about that and I'm like, oh well shit, what about that? What if that? What if that? That's but no, we have a cemetery not far from Lincoln. Say about little over 30-minute drive. And it's called the Ball Cemetery. And they actually changed the name of it. And I feel bad because when I looked up the genealogy of it's a family cemetery. And I looked up the genealogy of it, and it was originally the Ball and Sack Cemetery. And SNL couldn't have
Oh,
like
wow.
written this better because I'm online and I am in tears because it said this ball and this sack married and made that sack with this ball, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not right. Oh, like I'm going to hell on the short bus,
Well,
and
if that
it's
happens, be sure not to lick the windows because you don't know who was there before you.
well, and I'm dying. I literally had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard at this.
Oh my
And
God.
I thought I better never visit this cemetery because these ghosts will kick me right in the nuts for laughing so hard at their family. So what's bad about this is that I actually did go try to visit this cemetery with my wife, and there are a lot of rumors about this cemetery, and it turned out to be true. Um, it's on private land. The cemetery itself is privately owned, um, and as you approach it, you're on basically a gravel road that turns into a dirt road that turns into just two dirt tracks with grass in the center. And as you approach the gates, the trees and the foliage just get thicker and thicker. Um, but right before the trees and all that get thicker, you start passing signs that say uh, guard dogs on site, no trespassing, will shoot. I think there was one that said trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again. Um, uh, Property monitored by Sarpy County Sheriff, stuff like that. And so, if that's not enough to get your heart thumping, um, we get up towards where we could see the gate, and my wife was like, we ain't doing this. The signs were bad enough. We got to turn around, and we were there in broad daylight. What was really awesome about it was that there was not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful sunny day. We were having a blast. We had just been to the Platte River, was having fun, and I stopped and took a couple pictures before we turned around and left out of there. And as I turned the car around and left, um, my wife was looking at the pictures on my phone, and she goes, well, this is odd. And I said, what? She goes, it looks like this one. It looks like it's overcast, and this picture looks like it's foggy. And so she kept scrolling, and it was weird because there was an odd fog or overcast look. The closer we were to the cemetery, the worse it was, and then the further we were away from the cemetery, more cleared up it got. And
Interesting.
so I have not been back to that cemetery. Um, Part of it is a little bit of nervousness, and part of it is guilt for laughing at that family. But um, yeah, I a lot of people I've known a couple people that said they've been on the property and got scared off because they'll hear a gunshot and they'll run. But it's not been a thoroughly investigated cemetery. So
That's
Yeah, see
that.
those signs alone would make me turn around because I wouldn't want nobody to
Well,
shoot at me.
the thing is, with something like that, I would actually want to meet the family. I'd actually want to meet who's the
You
ones that
think you
still own
keep a
it
straight face
and
though?
talk to them. No, yeah, I could actually. I could because of the fact that I want to actually, if I could talk them into letting me go in there and do just or even just walk around the outside of it and just with the camera and film, and then talk to them about the family and about the cemetery itself.
Well, and I've actually spent well, I have about the last 2 years. I haven't put a lot of effort into it, but I probably spent about 2 years trying to find the owners of that property. Um, and I even talked to one of the Sarpy County Sheriff deputies about how to get permission to get on that property, to get on that cemetery.
Hmm.
And he told me that he said it's not in his realm of uh, information to give me on what to do. But I had a couple leads that fell through, and I finally just kind of was like, you know what? I've got other places I can do. I've got other things that I can do with what uh, with what I do in this field. But um, yeah, after going there, I didn't have permission that day, um, and that's very unlike me because I'm kind of by the book when it comes to locations. I don't like trespassing. I don't like being
I
in an area without.
I'm the same damn way.
It's a respect factor, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes, it shows respect, and then when people see that in you, it actually opens the door more for you.
yeah, and so yeah, it's I didn't ever feel the necessity to go back without permission, but um, yeah, and plus I don't know. I don't know if that family still holds that name, but I'm kind of a smart ass, and I'd probably, if I actually walked up to that door, I would probably ask, "Are you a ball or are you a sat?" Like, oh god, I'm not getting in there
Oh
now.
Lord.
But no,
Well,
as a going to commercial places, I've almost every investigation I've done in a larger name location like Sally House, uh, Liz Scott's Murder House. I've been to the Farrar House Schoolhouse in Maxwell, Iowa, a lot of times. Belisca has probably been my most visited location. Um, but like a lot of these locations, I almost if we do an overnight, almost always I collaborate with another team, and it's kind of awesome to do that because then you get I have my way of doing things, and then you have another team who has their own little style and way of
right.
doing things, and you get to learn other ways and see what they do, and possibly pick up something different. It's just so enjoyable to do that, and so next weekend I will be in Scotch Grove at the Edinburgh Manor, which is why I thought it was funny that your show is called the Insane Asylum because it's an abandoned insane asylum. So so this Friday I'm on the insane asylum. Next Friday I'll be in the insane asylum. So um, uh, but yeah, I'll be there with a gentleman from Lincoln here that I work with, and we'll be meeting a team um, from uh, the Twin Cities, North Star Paranormal. And so I've done a couple things with them. I've actually done Velisca, I've done Malvern, and I've done Farrar with them. And back in August, they were here in Lincoln, and I gave we about 4 days. I took them around and gave them a haunted history tour of the town um, because Lincoln doesn't really have uh, like big name places like a lot of places do. Like Iowa,
Right.
they've got all these big name places that you can pay and go into. You've got the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, whatnot.
Now that's another thing. These places that charge you to go into them, you know, those I feel more skeptic about than I do just going to a general location out of the blue or a cemetery or something like that because you hear stories. I mean, there might be stories, there might be histories about this, but there's like a bar
There's
not
a
too
bar in
far from
Baraboo.
here. Yeah,
It's up in
guy
Baraboo, Wisconsin.
guy
Yeah.
will charge you to go and do a little tour and investigation in there at night. But with today's technology, how do you know that they didn't set something up ahead of time?
You have to be really thorough.
I mean, it's just, I don't think it's worth paying to go to any of these places myself.
You know,
I'd rather pay to go and do a ghost tour with an experienced paranormal investigator that's done this stuff and tell me all the history about the places and say, look, this is this place, this is this place. You know, those are cool. You know,
see, and that's the thing is that like I'm really into the history. I'm really into the research and finding like as deep a history as I can possibly find. Um, and I really enjoy working with teams that are into the research part of it.
right?
Um,
Well, we
I
do
don't.
too.
It annoys me when you go with weekend warrior people or the tourist investigators that only want to go to the big name places that I shouldn't even mention his name, but all douchebaggins goes to. Uh, um, sorry, but
Let me guess, you're not a fan of Ghost Ventures.
you know what? I'm not a fan of his. Aaron's cool. Nick was cool. You know, but yeah, you know when we were talking about serial killers, I'm sorry. Like, when he claimed that he got Ed Gein's cauldron, you know, come on,
You know
dude.
how could you do that when shortly after all that happened, the townsfolk pretty much burned down his house?
Well, exactly. I mean, well, they didn't
I
pretty
mean,
much. It was burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
yeah, and so anything that was taken out of there beforehand was taken out of there by the sheriff's department or the police department or whatever, and it was probably still locked up in some police storage somewhere.
Well, and the thing was, is that he bought it from a lady at a yard sale in Wabasha County,
There you go. I didn't know it's
and
real.
so the credentials for this cauldron came from some lady at a
Yeah.
yard sale.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
see,
Real credible there, douche. But anyway, there are the folks that love to go to
Oh
anywhere
Lord.
that they just see. Sorry, I hope I didn't just like
No, no, no. Don't
step
worry
on
about it.
toes and stuff.
I have my issues with the guys from Ghost
I have
Adventures,
my
and
issues with just
I
about anyone on
don't give a
TV.
crap because my opinion of it, I think I
I
think a lot of
paranormal
it
media.
is I think a lot of the Ghost Adventures is
Hyped
staged.
up. Yeah,
It's
it's hyped up
staged
and staged for ratings and
because
money.
that's the only way they're going to be able to keep going the
How
way
many
they're going.
times? All right, I ask this question just about every time when this topic comes up. How many times have you actually gone out and investigated someplace and actually seen something or had something happen? It doesn't happen as often as it does on TV,
Oh hell no, it
right?
don't.
You
No.
know, we
No,
had it
and you know what? When you were talking about these places that you pay to go to,
right.
um, it's funny because I've been to these places. I've been some of the places where there's a bunch of stuff that happens that you're like, okay, well, it takes me a while to figure out what happened. You're kind of going like, that was weird, but you think on it, and eventually you can think, okay, well, this explains what that was,
Hmm.
whatever. There's sometimes you pay for like, you got the place for 20 hours, and literally you're twiddling your thumbs the entire time.
Exactly what somebody
Um,
else said. You're just sitting there
but
twiddling your thumbs talking to yourself.
Hmm.
that what?
That you were just sitting there talking, is twiddling your thumbs and talking to yourself, hoping something
Yeah, I
happens.
mean, and that's a lot of. I mean, it's that's anywhere. There's times where you're doing a residential case and you're trying to explore what the person is saying. Like, we had this activity and this activity, and there's nothing.
Nope.
Like, I'll be back next week because But I stay away from paranormal media just for the fact that I've had the pleasure of uh, doing events. Um, and I've hung out with Chris Smith from Wraith Chasers. Um, I've been able to meet. I know Johnny Hauser. Um, I've been able to meet Dustin Pare and stuff, and they will flat out tell you that that's they do it. They love doing their show and stuff. But I've had a couple people where they're like, it gets old when it's not the initial reaction, and the producers are like, let's do that one again. And after 12 of let's do that one again, your reaction is so fake,
Hmm.
that there's why.
Yeah.
That's all that's left is why.
Yeah.
And, I was stupid enough to watch
It's all
Demon
about
House,
that.
the documentary. It is all that. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
It's all about the money that they make.
It
That's
is.
why they keep doing it. Yeah.
And the producers tell you what to say and how to say it. And, they tell you what your persona is going to be. They
That's
build
okay.
you. Um, but I'll tell you what, I watched Demon House when it came out. And the only reason I did watch it was because I found it, somebody had posted it on YouTube, and it was free.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have paid a dime to watch that film, bitch.
Yeah.
But that annoyed me because, he has an anger problem and then blames it on getting possessed every 5 minutes. And it's like, that's what annoys me. But then bulldozing the house is another misconception. It's like, you take a place like the Borley Rectory over in England, and that burnt down. And that story is, take a read of that place, because that was a heck of a hot spot. And that place burned down. I want to say it was like 46, but that sits on private land, and they put up a gate around that land where the rectory stood. And it's because there's still a lot of that really, um, I don't want to say like uh, evil or malevolent activity, but it's kind of an angry activity on that land.
Hmm.
But just because the building's gone doesn't mean the energy's going to leave.
No,
No, it can stick with the land.
Yeah,
the energy can be attached to the land.
absolutely. And so for him,
You can have somebody come in anywhere, the United States, England, anywhere, and purchase a piece of land, build a house, build a building or whatever, and brand new building, and you can walk into that building like you're going to move in and have all kinds of activity happening. And the reason is because what you built on that land, the land you built that on, is where that activity is attached to.
right.
I mean, you can.
Well, but like go the other way though. I mean, like say that that energy was staying in that house. I mean, like just because you're tearing that house doesn't mean they're going to move on.
No.
That
No,
doesn't
that doesn't
cleanse
mean it
that
either.
area. And so for him at the end of that documentary to bulldoze that house and say that that's going to take care of the problem was just completely asinine to me. Um, so it's like Joe said, it's the money,
Hmm.
all about the money, and that's what annoys me about the paranormal media. But um, I when I do residential stuff, when I talk to people who are into the field as much as us, you the number one thing is you don't blow smoke up their ass. Be honest with them.
Yeah,
Try to educate them as much as they're willing, but you can't be condescending either. You
No.
gotta
No.
you gotta be just completely straightforward and as informative as you possibly can.
Yeah. Know the history a little bit. Know as much history as
Yeah,
you can
well,
find,
that's one of the
at
things
least.
that Joe tries to do actually is whenever we do investigation,
I'm disabled, so I
he
do all
tries
the
to
work
find what
behind the
history he can.
scenes. And I'm pretty good at that because
So,
I got an investigative background before I became disabled.
that's awesome.
I was a
Uh,
I was in security and a private investigator for many years. So
that actually really rocks though. And don't you guys find that like the history part of finding out about the past is like the biggest fun part about it?
yeah, I
Yeah,
was just gonna say
yeah, it
that's the
is.
most fun for me is because I grew up here in Wisconsin, in this
I'm a
area,
transplant.
and I was just shocked at how much I didn't know, growing up here. It's like, especially in the Madison area, you know, I didn't know anything about Sanatorium Hill. It was an old TB hospital back in the 30s and stuff. A lot of people died up there. They had
60s.
outside pools. Yeah, it closed down in
Well,
the 60s. It was opened up in like the
yeah, in
30s,
the
I think it
30s.
was. And it
Really?
closed down in the 60s. But during
Actually,
that,
no, it was 29 that they built it.
bro, close enough. Stop
No,
correcting
no,
me.
no. I'm remembering. No, I'm remembering this stuff. It's not trying to correct you. I'm just remembering this. I believe it was 1929 when they built
Well,
that, and
whatever.
it was a TB hospital.
It
There's
was
a church.
originally
There's
it was
actually a
originally
church sitting next to it that's got a cemetery behind it.
and the cemetery is mostly children.
The cemetery
Oh,
has stones from the 1800s, and their children in there.
Yeah.
There's an entire like five. There's like five stones, and it's all children of ages from like 10 to newborn.
Yeah.
oh wow.
Yeah, and
You could
it's a trip to see that.
see we couldn't get inside the building itself, but some of the activity supposedly happens on the outside of the building because the pools, they had the cement pools and they'd have these underground tunnels they take the
Yeah, the therapy
patients
pools.
to these therapy pools and stuff. And there was also they raised vegetables. They had a pig farm
There
up
was a
there,
pig
wasn't it?
farm that was further back in it, and
Right.
they had tunnels that went from the basement of the building all the way out to where the therapy pools were, where the pig farms were, where the water tower is, all the different areas out there.
All the tunnels
So it was
have been
easier
sealed
for them to
since then,
take the patients out through the tunnels. So, but now all the tunnels are pretty much sealed up.
except for
It-
inside the building. You can still go
but
down a
you can
couple
still
of them
go
from
down in
what
the
I
basement.
hear.
I talked to a guy that,
Because it's a state office building now
yeah,
for the Department of Human Services, and we tried to get in there, and because of the sensitive material we have, we don't allow
I don't
anybody
care for the
that's
sensitive material. None
non-essential
of it's in the
people that are
basement. That's where
allowed
I
in
want
this
to go.
building.
Right.
You
No,
know,
seriously. None of their
but
sensitive
Right.
materials stored in that basement.
all
That's where I
all
want to go.
I had a cousin that worked at this place, and she recently retired last year, I think it was. Yeah, last year, because we tried
Last
to
year.
get a hold of her last year to get in there, and she retired. And she used to tell me about some of the stuff that would happen in the basement, why they'd go down there and smoke their cigarettes in the wintertime, because they
Hmm.
didn't want to go outside and get cold. And there was an old wheelchair from the early 1900s down there, and they'd be down there one time, and it was in one of those tunnels, and they were standing next to the tunnel, and it started rolling towards them, you know, and they couldn't explain how or why, but it freaked them out, so they just started staying closer to the stairs where they come down, and stayed away from that tunnel after that. But it was pretty interesting. But we tried several times to try to get into that building to do an investigation, but they said no, 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 no.
Yeah,
Wow.
unfortunately.
So real quick before I forget, I'm sorry, I'm changing the subject, but
That's okay.
how far are you guys from Plainfield where the Gein
About an
fiasco
hour and a
Uh,
happened?
half.
about an hour and a half.
Have you guys ever gone to
Not
Plainfield?
yet.
I've been through there, but I haven't been to the site where
We haven't. It's
the
on our
house was
bucket
and
list.
everything. That
The what?
I It's on our bucket list.
It's on our bucket list.
I
I
I
know.
just I the whole serial killer thing. I mean, it's so funny. Like I've always said that just because serial murders happen doesn't automatically make a haunting happen. But it's funny how people in the field are often
They
attracted to
can.
the crime
They
type
also
stuff.
they try to tie it in is what they're doing.
Yeah, but you got to admit that the crime stuff is fascinating to a point,
Oh
and
yeah, it
maybe that's
is. It
because like
is.
we call ourselves investigators, so maybe that's I don't know. There's something that ties us with the crime stuff. But anyway, I've always thought it would be fascinating to go look at the hardware store and the
Yeah,
bar if they're still standing,
the hardware store I know is still standing.
The bar,
So
I'm
and
not
that's
sure.
where Bernice Warden was, right?
Yeah.
that's where that one woman was killed in that. It looks different on the outside than it used to because they've kind of given it a facelift, but it's still the same building.
And then the other lady, I can't think of what her name was. Bernice Warden was the one at the hardware store, but he killed the other lady from the bar. But yeah, I just, even though the house is gone, I think it would be interesting to go visit that.
And he died in Madison at Mendota
And
Mental
that's a
Hospital.
that yeah, and you can go there too. That compound's still standing.
Yep.
The mental
Mendota
hospital where
Hospital,
he
yeah.
died.
Yep.
It's still active. They still use it as like a juvenile center or something like that.
Yeah, I used to live
Really?
there. I
Yeah.
used to live there. No, I'm just kidding.
In Madison or in the
And then
No,
you
site?
got then you
I
have
lived in Madison.
Central Wisconsin Colony, which is right next to it.
It's an old joke that he would get. I used to drive for a living in Madison. I used to drive
We
cabs
both used to drive
and
for
the same company.
the same
And
cab company.
I had an
Oh,
attendant. I had an attendant when I drove the school buses and vans because I had so many kids, and we'd have this like 15-minute layover before we'd have to start picking up again. And I told her one day, I said, I'm thirsty. I got to get a soda. And I said, I'm going to go home and get a soda. And I pulled right up there into Mendota, got out of my van, went up there, went in, gave the receptionist or the person behind the desk because I knew who she was some money to give me a soda from their break room, and I went back out with a soda, and she had her thinking I actually lived there. But I just loved fucking with people because it would make her laugh. I used to tell her I heard voices, and I keep hearing those voices, and it was Beavis and Butthead coming out of the speaker, one on one side, one on the other. I made a tape so that it would work that way. So
that's funny.
I couldn't help it. I got this
You
problem
know,
sometimes when I'm working with people like that. I gotta make people laugh.
yeah, it when you got people like Joe and I that we've been friends for over 20 years, and
Oh yeah,
we have
nobody
this
was
bad
safe
habit
in
of
that
making people
company.
laugh.
Nobody was safe in that company.
No, but
The first day
I
I got him in trouble, and I didn't even know him. The first
yeah.
day I was there.
But anyway, no, and one of the things I forgot to ask you. I'm changing the subject now, but no, one of the things I forgot to ask you though is what kind of equipment do you use when you go out and do your stuff?
honestly, I do not use a lot of equipment. My three main pieces, other than cameras, uh,
Hmm.
the camera is my favorite piece of equipment. I usually have two video cameras, the still camera, which is just a Nikon, just kind of like a little bit of a beefed up Nikon, and then I have my cell phone camera that I run um, for video and pictures. And I take a lot of pictures, but I have two voice recorders. And I'm not the type to sit down and do an EVP session. I will set one recorder about as far at one end of the location as I can, and then set
And
the
then
other
the other.
one, yep, opposite end of the location. But like my three main pieces are all EMF. I use the K2 to basically go in and set a baseline. I
Yeah.
want to find, I use the K2 just to find all electrical, gas, and water lines or whatever so I can stay away from them. and then I use the millimeter because I really like that because it has the temperature
Right.
on it, and the way it reads the milligogs, I just like that better than that K2 with the lights. And the K2, it's nice because you can do the K2 to find everything and set your baseline. And then I'll use a REM pod, and usually I have my second video camera set up, and I'll turn the REM pod on, and I'll set it on uh, a really sturdy base, but whatever's about as the sturdiest thing I can find to set it. And I'll train that second video camera on it. It's a smaller one that I just put on a little tripod, and I'll just review that video later. And if that REM pod went off when nobody was around it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, either I kind of got something or a fly landed on that antenna, um, one or the other. But I mean, there have been times where I did a residential case with a big house here in Lincoln, and it was two houses connected by the history, but I only did the one house, and it turned out really wasn't a lot of paranormal activity in that house, or really much of nothing other than this one little piece of video footage. And I kind of think that it was a fly that landed on it because everything they were experiencing, they said, well, oh, we heard footsteps, we heard thumps, we heard dragging noises, and it's all coming from the attic. And, this is a 150-year-old home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big guy, and I go up and I get in the attic. There's three, actually, like, it's a really large home. And there's three entrances to different sections of the attic. And I start crawling into the one section, and I'm probably about 20 feet in there. And I realize that I'm on between the studs, the rafters. They have 1x4 boards crossing over that I'm crawling on, and I realize what I'm on. That I'm on these 150-year-old 1x4s,
Jesus
and
Christ.
I'm a big dude, and I'm like hearing the creaking noises and stuff, and I'm going, yeah, I better back out of here. As I'm backing out, my light shines over to my left, and I see this gaping hole that's just surrounded in raccoon shit. And I'm like, okay. So I
Because
started
you're
piecing it
dragging. There's your
together.
footsteps.
Yeah, well, and what was awesome is a lot of their insulation up there were just the really thick styrofoam pieces, and they were
Mm-hmm.
pulling these styrofoam pieces down. There's your thunking, there's your dragging, there's your footsteps and
Yeah.
all that. And the house was, being 150 years old, it was a plaster and lath walls and stuff. So there was like a really big gaps between the plaster and lath and the outer sheeting. So real easy for critters to get up in there.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the first
So
thing
when
you
I
do.
got home, I'm like, okay, well, I'll review the audio, I'll review the video and everything just in case. And a lot of dead air on the audio. The audio recorders really had nothing. And then reviewed the video, and um, nobody was downstairs in the area of the REM pod. And twice it beeped and went off when nobody was in the vicinity. And I'm like, I'm gonna chalk that one up to a bug landing on that antenna. It had to have been because I mean there was nothing indicating that that house really had any kind of intelligent activity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the REM pod I do enjoy using. A lot of people get a kick out of it. Like I said, I collaborate with other teams, and so when I bring that, they're like,
You don't have to shut
"Ooh, let's go do an EVP
You don't
session
have to
with
shut
the
that.
REM pod." So, but
All right. No, I was just kind of wondering. Yeah. We have a couple of cameras that shoot night vision, and we got a couple of thermals.
See, and I'm really old school, really old school.
You can't be that old to be old school.
I'm an old soul.
I'm probably the oldest amongst all three of us.
Yeah, you are.
Uh, I've been around since the 60s.
Well, two of us just had a birthday this last week.
That must be you and him.
It was when was your birthday?
Saturday.
Saturday
Yours was
was?
Thursday.
Yeah, he turned 54.
Yours was Thursday,
Well,
right?
yeah, mine was last Thursday. Right, yeah,
No,
No.
I
it was
turned
a
52.
week ago
He
from
turned
yesterday.
what?
Yeah.
50 what? What was it?
I turned 52,
54. It
52.
was
and you're
54.
42.
I'm 42. Yeah. Damn, you do your research. I don't know if that's like good
No,
job or
I
that's
went.
freaking creepy.
I
No,
checked out. Well, I wanted to know about you
we do our
because we were going to
research
interview
beforehand.
you,
Yeah, you
and I
do.
went. I went to your Facebook page, and your birthday's up there. So I was like, oh, okay.
You find
He's a
anything out
Libra.
on social media.
There you go.
Google somebody and see how
I'm,
much
loo-
information you
I'm
find out just
looking
by
at it, and
Googling them.
I'm going, oh, okay, he's a Libra,
Oh shoot.
just like
No,
me, a
see, I'm
Libra.
a vampire. I've been around forever. I'm like 300 and something years old. I lost track. No, no,
So-
I'm older than him. I'm 53. I'll be 54
yeah,
in March.
he's only a year older than I am.
But you only
I,
use a touch of gray in your beard, not your hair.
Yeah, well, that's all because of the leukemia and having kids and things like that. Put a lot of gray right here pretty fast. I lost all of this too much, and it came back thinner and softer. So,
yeah, so
and
he doesn't ever cut his hair.
I haven't cut my hair since I don't know, 90 something maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the cow sills say it'll stop on its own.
So I don't, I don't, after losing it twice, yeah, I don't do that no more. I don't cut my hair for nobody. I did that a couple of times and I got burned. We almost had a computer store open together. I cut my hair real short and stuff, something I don't normally do. And yeah, we didn't get what we wanted.
Yeah, we got
So
burned on that pretty bad. But
I'm a
anyway,
computer genius.
nah, he thinks
So
he is.
I'm a self-taught computer genius because that's all I did in the hospital for 2.5 years was read textbooks on computers and HTML and Java and little things like that. So,
Wow.
do you believe in the cryptids?
Cryptids?
Yeah, you ever go out looking for cryptids?
I have not. I read about them once in a while just out of morbid curiosity, but I believe that they can exist. I don't see that. I don't see why not.
You've never gone looking for Bigfoot yet.
I'm not going to say while I'm out in the woods that I don't keep an eye out.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, that would be pretty freaking cool to see.
we've got a few cryptid stories around here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about your area, but we've got like the Beast of Bray Road, which is like the
I've heard of
Dogman of
that.
Michigan, and it's also the same creature as supposedly the Dogman of Michigan, and then you've got what was it, the Mothman's been seen around here, and so on and so forth. I mean, we look into it.
Bigfoot's actually supposedly seen down by our area here, in the Kettle Moraine area,
Forest in that forest area
and
down
then
there,
also in the northern tier of Wisconsin.
in the same Kettle Moraine forest up there.
Yeah.
So
So
I mean, there are.
I think there's just too many experiences to think that it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Um,
I just wanted to know what you thought on it. I mean,
I do.
We-
I find them fascinating because of like how many there are. I mean, obviously you got like Nessie and all those that are like
right, the famous Loch
real
Ness
popular that
Monster.
everybody knows. But when you start looking at different ones like Wendigo and uh, banshees and stuff that are in like folklore and stuff. Um, yeah, they're really fascinating to read about. It's just really not my area of expertise. Well, I shouldn't even say expertise because there's no experts in this field, I believe.
No.
But um, it just, I think that's more of like just one of my areas of morbid curiosity. The stories are great to read. I do like uh, reading the personal accounts of those because it gives me the giggles just to like, well, we were on a wonderful date and we hear the snarling voices and I shit my pants running away, like stuff.
But see, you gotta
I
you
was
gotta
100 yards away before I realized I left her behind.
one of the things you gotta actually remember though, is when dealing with cryptids and folklore and stuff like that, all legends are based in some truth.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's so cool. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, urban legends,
Hmm.
you know, they might have been told so far over the years that the story might be changed and twisted, all that, but they started somewhere with a little bit of truth.
Yep.
But one that's like always fascinated me was that, like the chupacabra.
Hmm. Go
I
see.
don't think a farmer's going to
No,
go out and mutilate their livestock just to get their 5 minutes of fame on the news.
no, because
No.
that livestock is their livelihood and their paycheck.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know,
Why would you do that?
and there's actually some pretty convincing photos of that out there. I mean, I remember when I first heard about that, I was in one of these cabs, driving one of these cabs that only had an AM radio, so I got hooked listening to Art Bell. It's
Coast to
famous
coast.
coast to coast, and he used to talk about the chupacabra quite a few different times.
He did like do. See, we're into the paranormal where we cover aliens, cryptids, spirits, ghosts, stuff like that. And that was kind of what Art Bell did.
Yeah.
He talked to different people about UFOs, about the cryptids like Bigfoot and Chupacabra and the Mothman and stuff like that. And Nessie, uh, Champ from Lake
Lake
Champlain,
Champlain.
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then spirits, hauntings, and poltergeists and stuff like that too. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
just
it's a fascinating subject, and
It's a
it's
pretty
kind of like
deep
aliens,
subject.
though. I'm not crazy about the subject of aliens, but it is fascinating, and uh, I do believe that there is intelligent life
I
out
was just going
there.
to ask him that.
What's that?
I was just going to ask you if you actually believe in them or not. Because
I do, and honestly, I believe that I would classify it as intelligent life out there because what is that old joke? It's got to be intelligent life because it has not tried to contact us yet.
yeah, we're too
you
I
kidding me?
we're
Yeah,
too
I'm gonna
dangerous
tell
for
you.
them
I'll
right
tell you
now.
right now. If aliens come near our solar system, I guarantee you, if they're a family and they're cruising by in their ship, they're rolling up the windows and locking them doors and telling them to
right.
sit down and shut up. We're not stopping at that fucking place. They're a bunch of crazy fuckers.
Yep.
I picture
Yeah, they're
Clark
down there
Griswold when
killing
they're
each other.
yeah,
Oh, good grief.
lock them up.
Okay,
Oh,
there we
Lordy
go.
Lord.
That's a famous
That's
term that's
awesome.
been heard a lot lately. Lock them up.
Lock them
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Get,
Oh man,
getting talked about the
yeah.
wrong person though.
I
Anyway,
Yeah. Don't want to
all
go
right.
there, Joe.
Nope. That's a dangerous subject. We got
That's
two
what got us.
taboos:
That's what
religion
got
and
us.
politics. That's what got us in trouble the first time around.
Yeah.
Before we
Exactly.
before we changed over, we were talking whatever would come on our minds, and
And a
we
lot of
pissed
it
a
was
lot of
religion and
people off.
politics, and we pissed so many people off. It was
Well,
hilarious.
hard to hear the truth sometimes.
Well,
Well, the truth that we say, but
Yeah,
religion is hard to avoid in this field, but like politics, yeah, I don't.
religion's hard to,
mm-mm.
because it the paranormal field and the paranormal industry,
I
a
like
lot
to keep
of
people
it
happy.
has got religion kind of weaved into it so much that
Hmm.
you can't take it out. You know,
Right.
when you're talking about it, because some of those subjects it's going to come up. Um,
You know, it's kind of funny. Like I love when you get in a discussion with somebody and the people will sit there and say, "Well, the possibilities are endless," but then will shoot you down on everything because it doesn't fit their little scope of like their religious beliefs or you know their little their little scope. Like
Yep.
it's funny because I mean I've this field has opened my mind so much to I've always been interested in science and history and all that. I mean, religion also has always interested me, but I don't just look at Christianity and the different denominations in Christianity. But even getting into different religions with like Hindu beliefs, Islamic beliefs, all this stuff,
Hmm.
different cultural beliefs from different parts of the world and how they view the paranormal.
oh,
Um,
it's
it's so fascinating because if you just looked at it from the Christian standpoint, your scope is so narrow
Yep.
that you know how can you say that the possibilities are endless when you're only looking at it from the Christian side?
you got if you're going to be in this field, you got to keep. And I've said this to people before that we've met. That I mean, we've met some paranormal investigators in the field that are a lot more experienced than we are, and then we've met a couple not so much. And you got to keep an open mind in this field when you're out investigating, because anything, like my old science teacher said from high school, anything's possible.
Absolutely.
We live in a world where anything's possible. I mean, look
Oh,
what technology was in the 70s. Look at the technology today. In the
oh, absolutely.
70s, we didn't have computers like this that you could have at home. A computer that's doing what this one's doing right now would fill my entire house back then.
Right.
To do the same thing, but we didn't have the technology to stream all of this over the internet because there was no internet then.
No.
Right.
You know,
Well, and I mean, I God did not install the math app in my brain when I was born. I swear to God, I can't do math. Um, but I never thought that I would be reading about physics and stuff like that.
oh yeah, that's
Um,
to play too in this field. I never thought about.
Well, yeah, physics has a place to play in this in the paranormal field.
absolutely, and so it's I find it fascinating reading about physics and different things like the string theory and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and how much you can learn about it without having to do the math.
Right.
And stuff. Reading Einstein stuff and Hawking stuff, Tyson stuff, they have great education information. Excuse me. They have great information out there
Tyson.
without overloading your mind with mathematical stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, Einstein had a theory that our our existence and our presence is built on energy.
Yeah,
That
he said
our
energy is
our
infinite.
world is energy, and
Yeah,
our brains are wired to see it in the three-dimensional plane instead of the four-dimensional or higher. So we don't have the concepts of knowing that we can actually move from one point to the next through the energy fields. Tesla, on the other hand, used a lot of Einstein's theories and created what he did with the the electricities that he did, like the Tesla coils and stuff.
I'll tell you,
So,
if with the four dimensional theories and stuff, watch Carl Sagan on
oh
YouTube.
yeah, oh hell yeah.
Oh my God, when he talks about flatland with the four dimensions and stuff, I'm sorry, I get a kick out of that guy. His presentation is so quirky.
Carl Sagan, he may have been kind of a strange duck when it came to explaining things, but he was a flipping genius.
Yes, he was. He was. But he was a quirky guy, and I just get a kick out of watching it.
But most people that are geniuses are have those little quirks
Oh
or
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
yeah.
you know,
Well,
whatever. I forget what it's called, but
Neil was it Neil deGrasse Tyson? I think that's how you say his middle name.
I think it's just DeGrasse.
DeGrasse, yeah,
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He took over actually. He's the one that actually took the place of Carl Sagan with the cosmos and stuff like that with the teachings
Yeah.
of that. But
so
he actually idolized. If I don't know if you've ever seen that documentary thing with him. I think you can find it on YouTube where he talks about meeting Carl Sagan.
That's
It's
cool.
pretty. It is
I'll
pretty
have to
cool.
find that.
so where can you be found? Your group or your
You find me on Facebook, Heartland Paranormal. Um, look for the there's my logo. If I can, there we go.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
pretty cool logo.
Yeah, it is a cool logo.
Uh, well, I designed that because uh, the Ravens' significance with the afterlife and
Hmm.
a lot of different. I mean, it's actually looked as the bird of death, um, but a lot of different theories or not theories, belief systems with the raven and the afterlife and stuff. But the logo, the design in the middle, again, I'm Latvian, and so I'm trying to get it there. That's a Latvian design in the middle, um, and so I put that in there just significance on my family, and then it's holding a rose in its
Hmm.
beak, and that is to signify a lot of the special women in my life, which is my wife's favorite flower is a rose, my mom, my grandmother, my great aunt, and my godmother all really like their favorite flowers were the rose, and so
I think most
um,
women like the roses.
yeah, so that's why I put that rose in there because all them most special women in my life, um, influential, I guess I would say influential women in my life. Um,
That's a good thing.
so yeah,
Yeah, my mom was important to me too. You know, I
you
had
could call me a mama's boy.
I was. I admit it. I'm a proud mama's boy, and I'll tell you what. When when I met my wife, she had to go through and pass some tests. You know, she had to go meet my mom. She had to meet my aunt Barb. You know, and so on and so forth. And if she passed by them women and they told me, "Oh yeah, I really like her" and that stuff, yeah, that's why we've been married so long.
That's
Yeah.
awesome though.
So
See, that's
I've
one of
been
the things.
married. We've been together for 14 years, and we've been married for 10.
That's
So
awesome. See, and that's I one of the coolest things um, about my wife is her relationship with my mom and my dad. But my mom and her have become like really good friends,
yeah,
and that just really means a lot to me.
my wife was
Yeah.
really close with my mom too. She didn't get a chance to meet either one of my dads. You know, I had my dad and then my stepfather, but my dad was an alcoholic and he was an instant asshole at alcohol. Um, but my stepfather was one of the most honest men I'd ever met in my entire life. So, but they're all gone now. You know, not much you can do. Just keep
It's
them
part
in
of
your
They're still
life.
with
memories.
us.
Oh yeah, you just keep them in your
They stay
memories. You
with us.
know. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I lost a lot of people way too quick. I died myself, literally, flatline. They had to bring me back, you know. They told me December 4th, 1995, I wasn't going to live to see Christmas that year. But here I
Well,
am.
glad
You
that
don't,
you. I'm glad that you're here still because it's been a pleasure meeting you guys and
you
Oh
know,
yeah,
and
definitely.
this
It's
has
been
been
great
fun,
meeting you,
but
talking with you.
I've got wrestling to watch. Yeah.
I
I'm hoping that
uh,
I'm going to be
I
starting
don't.
another. I don't have a lot. I got a lot of time on my hands sitting around here, especially with the COVID shit going around. And I'm hoping that with another dude, another guy I know, we're going to start a wrestling podcast where we're going to talk about wrestling. So I got to kind of keep up to date on it.
I used to be into it. I'm not anymore. I,
So,
I, I
yeah, but
just
you don't have the time like I do
I don't have
to.
the time, but I don't have the patience to watch that
So
fake
I'm gonna
crap either.
try to be a co-host on another podcast with somebody else doing that maybe sometime in the future, as well as keeping this going. This is my first priority though because I like this too much, especially when we get
well,
out and investigate. So
we all need to go down to Texas and try to channel Andre the Giant then.
yeah, I'd like to get down there and I'd like to get down to Texas and just go over there to the Davidian Ranch
So
once.
which one?
Branch Davidian Ranch
Oh,
in Waco.
Hang on a
yeah,
second.
wow.
Remember the
Yeah, that would be
remember
that'd be a hell of a place to go.
the big Waco shootout?
Mhm.
I've done my research on that. I've seen the documentary that's on Netflix. My baby brother, stepbrother, half brother, not stepbrother, half brother, um, actually spent a week down there, and I think he met Thibodeau, the the guy that in the Waco thing. His name is Thibodeau. I think that's how you pronounced it. Anyway, he was like David Koреш's.
Koresh.
Yeah, he was like David Koresh's right. He had David. He had Thibodeau marry one of these girls that was underage that he got pregnant so that they could get around the law in a
Wow.
way. But it was actually David Koresh's kid, but he had Thibodeau marry this girl. But he met Thibodeau in a bar where he was playing with his group and he had Thibodeau sit in with him and his band because their drummer didn't show up. David Koresh's drummer didn't show up. So he had Thibodeau set in because he was just leaving and he heard him play.
That's crazy.
So my brother Alan spent like a week or a couple of weeks down there on that ranch, and they actually got married. He got married to his wife down there
Really?
last year. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. He was telling me about it, a little bit about it, because we spent time. I went to he had his reception party a couple months after they got married when he came back to Wisconsin. He's a nomad. My baby brother's a nomad. He travels and he goes everywhere and he volunteers to they get by doing odd jobs places or something. Plus he's got this online thing that he makes money at, but he travels all over with his RV.
Wow.
So and then he's gone to Europe. He was over there when protests were going on last year or earlier this year. He was over, where was it? Colombia. He was in Colombia when the whole COVID thing almost hit. He just barely made it back to the States before they snapped
Really?
all the travel bans.
Hmm.
Because they were supposed to be back sooner, but they got their passports, and she got her purse swiped. And it had the passports and all their ID and everything. So they were like stuck at the U.S. consulate for a while,
Oh my
or
God.
U.S. embassy
Yeah.
for a while, or whatever it was in Colombia. So they had a post. They stayed a little extra, and they almost stayed a little too long because the COVID thing started to hit, and they got their passports and stuff back just in time to get tickets, get on a plane, and get back here to the States. And right when they got back, that travel ban was put in place that same
Yep.
day.
Wow.
Yeah,
So they
it's
got
pretty
real
crazy.
lucky. They got real lucky. So they spent most of the summer in a small town not too far from here, and then they just took off again. They're traveling now in the states to all the different state parks, or across the country. You know, actually, I think last I heard they weren't. They were over by you.
Really?
Yeah, I think they were in Nebraska just recently. So, but he they
Wow.
but he went down there, and after what he told me, the little bit of what he told me when we were sitting in his little trailer, his camper, at his reception, I want to go down there. And after watching all the stuff about Waco that I've watched recently since then, because he was telling me that, I want to go down there and check it out. It's kind of like one of those Manson things, you gotta know,
Yeah.
you know,
It'd be interesting. But it's
that.
a sad energy.
Yeah, but
Probably.
it's. I still think it was wrong. I mean, on the government's part, what they did there.
How they
I
went
mean,
about doing it.
they jumped the gun too soon, and they could have handled that a lot differently,
Yeah.
and a lot of people could have been saved. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, from what I can tell and all the research I did, and nobody will say for sure because we don't want the government ain't going to say because we don't want to look bad,
Right.
but they fired the first shots from what I can understand. Everything that I've read and heard and the way it went
Well, didn't
down.
they send a mole in?
Huh?
Didn't they send a mole in? Didn't they have like somebody go in from the government? Like,
Yeah, they had an
Yeah, there was
inside
an
person.
FBI. There was they rented a house not too far from the property, and there was like they were doing an investigation, and the one guy that was the mole was trying to stop them from going in because he realized David Koresh knew they were coming. Okay, so he's like, "Stop," and they wouldn't stop for him. So I mean, they come barreling in with their cars and their SUVs, and he's like, "Stop, stop, nope, nope, nope." So they had dogs at that ranch, and the dogs started barking at. I mean, if I lived on this property and I was a dog, and you come approaching it with a gun, I'm gonna start barking at you pretty viciously too. You know, I'm protecting my home. They shot at the dogs first. And when they shot at the dogs, the Branch Davidian people opened fire as well because they thought they were getting shot at. And that's how that whole thing started in my eyes and my point of view.
that's
So
crazy.
yeah, so I think there was a big, big
Uh-oh.
wrong done there. So, but we're gonna have to tie this all up, and it was real enjoyable. You can come back anytime. You know,
Yeah, definitely. It
I
was
think I
good.
lost you there for a second. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you guys for having me.
Oh
and
yeah, thanks for showing up,
I
man.
got one announcement for next week, Wednesday. We're going to have Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations on. That should be fun because she collaborates a lot with Christy Sumner, Dr. Christy Sumner, who we had on from the paranormal, what was it, Soul Sisters
Soul Sisters
from Florida.
out of Florida.
Yep. So until next week, Wednesday, stay safe.
Oh,
And
there,
Okay,
he's back.
sorry.
okay.